Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Night Sleepover. I'm your host, Charli, and today we're joined by Victoria.
You now know what I look like.
Today's kind of a special episode because we are recording in our house that we grew up in.
Which is weird.
Yes.
It's really weird. So yeah, we're sitting in the apartment that the new owners put above the garage, which they turned into an Airbnb, and so we're staying in it. So we got to check out our old house, and they're all bedrooms, and it's been weird.
Yeah, it's been really weird.
Not bad, just weird.
So we came to our hometown because we were half raised at a library. And one of the most influential librarians is retiring. So
yes. Our mom, who chose to be our mom in a lot of ways, is retiring after, 35 years?
Yeah, pretty close to 35
years. She has been, so you've talked about this on the podcast, right? That we're in a small town?
Yeah.
Yeah, one stoplight town. She is like a anchor for the entire town's population in a lot of ways. And you could say the library is an anchor, but since she has been the head librarian for almost 35 years, it's her. And so it's going to be an interesting change for our town. But she practically raised us. We both worked there. Mm-hmm. We started going there when I was 11. You were 9 or 10. And we went there a few times a week or until we all left for college. And then we worked there and just... She's a big part of our life, so we're here to celebrate her retirement and be really nostalgic. There have been a lot of big feelings.
Yeah, there's been a lot of big feelings. Because while we love our hometown and we love growing up here, it is also we experienced a lot of trauma growing up. So.
Yeah, we were talking about a religious extremist parents. That happened here. My marriage and my divorce started and ended here in a lot of ways because his family's from here. So I had a lot of anxiety about running into my ex-in-laws, which I haven't, thank God. But there was a lot of trauma in that marriage, and so it's just been It's been a weird couple of days.
I think it's good. I think
it's good. It's been cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you. I have felt really good about being able to come back and, I'll be honest. There's been some triggered feelings, but being able to just work through those and be okay and be like, you know what, that's fine. It's okay that I still feel feelings about these things in our lives. It's not a sign that I've not done better or I'm not healed or everything like that. It's just part of the process of being human, and I think that's been really nice to remind myself of in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel like it's kind of important to the thing that I keep picturing is past me, little me, and being grown up me is here.
Yeah,
and you're safe. And
yeah, I feel that way too. I feel like tiny me, because looking at all these pictures, oh my God, we're we tiny people.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever imagine yourself as a tiny child, and then you look at pictures and you go, that definitely was not what I looked like. There's no way that's what I looked like. But you did look that way. I was not as cool as I thought I was. But I think there's a lot of what you're saying, you're almost revisiting, you're physically revisiting your childhood self. When you do therapy or the work, or you work through your trauma and your history, you emotionally work on your inner child, or that's how I've always felt. But we're here now physically, basically revisiting those kids who went through a whole fucking lot, and we're able to say, you're fine. You ended up okay, you're safe, you're loved, you have a joyful life, and I think there's something very cathartic about that.
Yeah.
It's closure, after an ex-boyfriend or something.
Yeah. It's nice. But it's also been, one of the things that I've just been driven to want to do is, walk. I just want to walk around this town because it's a very walkable town.
Oh, yeah. It's so walkable. I do miss that. You would have thought So last night we were going to walk to dinner, and then we stopped by the library, and then shocker, we ended up staying for like an hour and a half and missing dinner entirely where we thought we were going to go, which is fine. We ended up going to this delicious place.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. When we lived here, there was nothing. I mean, there's the Chinese food restaurant that is the pillar of the community that holds everyone up.
And then there was where the restaurant we ended up at last night called Sunflower. We used to be a coffee shop when we were growing up, and we'd get smoothies, and now it's like a French Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
With
Who
sushi.
ever thought that this little town would have a French Thai fusion with sushi restaurant?
I don't know.
Not me.
I didn't think so. No, so that's been weird. But we used to walk, because this town is very walkable. It is small enough that it is very, very walkable. We used to walk to work at the library on Tuesday, Thursday nights, and we begged our parents to be able to drive, because I don't want to walk, it's so far. And now we're like, let's just walk everywhere. It's amazing. Totally different perspective on it. But anyways, yeah, walking has been nice, because I don't live in a walkable city anymore.
Yeah, I can walk around my neighborhood, but I live up a busy road, so.
I can't really walk in my neighborhood living in Atlanta. I mean, I could, but I wouldn't recommend it. Like, it's not fantastic. I hit by cars and things at speeds. But yeah, it's been nice. You've done more walking than I have.
Yeah.
She's gotten up early to walk. I have slept in.
I just kept I am not normally that kind of person, but who gets up early on vacation, but I just was like, you gotta get up early, you gotta go walk, and you gotta go see.
And you have a time difference.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a time difference being on the East Coast. It's the same time here as the same time it is in Georgia. You have a time difference, so you're waking up even earlier than you think you are.
Yeah. I'm waking up an hour earlier.
Which is nonsense.
I know. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a morning person.
Which, I get up really early for my job, so I'm really taking advantage of the fact that I don't have to. But yeah, it's been fun. I really liked it. It's also been fun to I'm really glad we came back together. Mm-hmm. I think Charli is much more emotionally capable than I am.
I don't know if that's true.
I know if I had come here by myself, I would not be okay. I'd be really, really struggling. And I feel like I'm still struggling a little bit with processing all of the big feelings, but it feels a lot easier and a lot safer having you there. Like, on our drive into town, I turned the corner at the stoplight, and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna die. Like, I had this horrible anxiety, and my heart was palpitating, and you were just like, you're okay, you're safe, nothing's wrong. And it's just your body's natural response to what it remembers, because your body remembers everything. And so I don't think I would be okay if I had come here by myself. So I'm really glad that we came together, because I would not be composed. I would probably be having a mental.
Yeah, we were supposed to record several times already.
Yeah, we were supposed to record last night,
but both of us were just crying.
Yeah. Because we spent the night with our old boss and our second mom. And we just were feeling, we're putting together her retirement list yesterday, and it was just very emotional trying to express. And I still don't think I found the words to express to her how much she means to me and how much she changed my path in life. I am not convinced we would be where we are today if that woman was not in our life. We would not be okay.
Yeah.
At all. As prevalent as there is evidence of how other people were not okay by not having that kind of person in their life.
Yeah.
So I think that just it's been really emotional. Yesterday we were not okay.
Yeah.
We were not okay. So not okay that I drank 3-hour-old wine from a cup and mixed the leftover. So we thought we were going to drink 2 bottles of wine in 2 days. And one is what did you get?
I'm a little basic bitch who gets Stella Rose.
Stella Rose is delicious. Yeah, she got Stella Rose blueberry, and I just got a cheap red blend. I think it's the Walmart winemaker blend, which is actually really good for it being only a $5 bottle of wine. But she poured me a baby cup, I want to say even the night before. I think the baby cup was from the night before. It was on the bedside table, and then I had poured myself a glass of the red blend when I was getting ready last night, and then we got home from dinner. I just dumped the 1.5-day-old of blueberry wine into the 3-hour-old red wine and just drank it. And she was like, what is wrong with you? I was like, oh, it's fine.
This is fine.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah. And then we just ate caramel apples.
I did.
And cried. It was a good time.
It was very cathartic. I read a book.
Yeah. She checked a book out from the library.
Under my old boss's account, so I have to take it back.
Yeah, she's like, I promise I'll bring it back.
I promise I'll bring it back tomorrow. I'm trying to finish it before we leave tonight. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. For people who listen to this who are readers, it's called Beautiful Broken Girls. Oh, here we go. It's called Beautiful Broken Girls. It's from Kim Savage. It is technically what you would call a young adult fiction, but it's a mystery. It is a little reminiscent of the one that did the tapes after she committed suicide. The movie 13 Reasons Why. It's a little reminiscent. Oh my God, excuse me. It's a little reminiscent of 13 Reasons Why, because these two girls die and they leave letters behind. But it's like clues to figuring out what happened to them. And you don't know how it unfolded. And there's some religious undertones in it, which is interesting. But it's very, very good. I'm a big fan of young adult fiction. I love all books, but I don't know how you feel about this. But I think young adult fiction tends to be very diverse. Is a better way of thinking, say, and very complicated. You have no requirements to what adults like to read. So it tends to be more complicated stories, more complex stories. The writing isn't necessarily always the best because it's young adult fiction, but the plots are amazing. It's just incredible. So it's more of a complicated story. I think complicated characters compared to what I've read in adult fiction, but it's very, very good. I'm only 100 pages in, and I'm already like, someone has to read this. It's so, so good. But this is what I read last night, and so I was crying while I was reading this, trying to pretend that everything was okay. But anyways, highly recommend.
One other thing that I was thinking about is just like there's so many little quirks to this town, and for me, I'm like, I've been gone for so long that nobody remembers who I am.
Yes. No one, it's all new, it's a lot of new people.
Yeah, it's a lot of new people. Like yesterday, I've made, because I make friends everywhere I go, I've made friends with the person that owns this house, and she like took me on a little tour of town and like showed me all of her like friends' houses and stuff, and I was like, wow, like, because she's new to town and like she knows so many people in town already that like moved here at the same time she did. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. But then also like we went to the restaurant last night, and after the restaurant, like, okay, there was this is very like hometown hometown coded. We're sitting at dinner and we see red light or cherries and berries, like police lights flying down the road.
Okay, mind you, flying is probably only 35 miles an hour because all the roads here are only 20 to 25 mile an hour roads. So it's probably only going like 35.
And then another car comes, and then another car goes the other direction. And I was like, what, all the cops are out today? Like, all 4 of them?
All 4 are out.
And so when we went and left the restaurant, it was like closing time. So the owner or a waitress or somebody who works there was out in the front of the restaurant, and you could see all the police cars. And I was like, I want to know what's going on. She's like, me too. I was like, I'm just being nosy. This is none of my business. She's like, it's not me either, but I want to know. And then I was like, I want to know who it is. Although I doubt anybody remembers, or like it's anyone I know, but I used to live here. She's like, oh, what's your name? And then I told her my mom's name, and she was like, oh, you guys live in the big house. And I was like, yeah, I do. Like, it's like weird that and then we had like a whole conversation about how much the town has changed and not changed.
There are still things that are exactly the same. And for those who want to know what was happening was there was a domestic dispute. They were yelling. I don't think there was any violence involved, from what I could tell. It was just a lot of yelling. And the boyfriend ran to the mom's house, which was only like a block and a half down from the girlfriend's house. And so why the cops were taking laps was because they were going back and forth between the houses in their vehicles at 35 miles an hour. And the girlfriend was yelling down the block not to arrest him. And the mom was like, no, you can't come in and get my son. And it was fantastic.
It was and then we literally walked through it on the way home.
And I was like wondering, because we have old friends we grew up with in high school who are police officers here, or at least one who's still a police officer here, I believe. And I was like looking at the cops to be like, is that my friend? Because I 100% inappropriately would have said hi to him if I wasn't him, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, oh my god, hey. But yeah, it was a very it was an appropriate ending to a day in Colonial Beach.
Yeah.
Loved it. But yeah, you OG people who are from here would probably remember us, but there are a ton of new people, which is interesting because when we came here, it was like you're an outsider. You're an outsider. You're a moo here, because there is like long running families that are just that are from here. Their roots are here, or in the county, and a lot of the people that we grew up with, their parents have left, or their parents are gone, or even people who are family friends are no longer, friends is a strong word, family acquaintances are no longer here. Like, there was a family who used to paint their front door every month in something new. And you would wait for the first of the month to see what the new design was. And it's not like a different color. We're talking like a baby mural, basically. They would have had to replace that door, whoever bought that house, because that's like decades of paint on that front door. But they're no longer there. Our friend's mom, who used to live across the street from them, their house is completely gone now. So a lot has changed, but then a lot is still very much the same.
Yeah.
Still a volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
Still the same McDonald's. The same restaurant. Some of the same restaurants.
Yeah, the same stoplight.
Same stoplight. Still the same stop. Still the only stoplight. Still the only stoplight.
Something else that has not changed is it's still a testing center, ground zero.
You please explain that.
So there's a naval testing base nearby, and it shoots off literal missiles.
There's nothing in them. They're not going to explode.
They're like empty shells.
And because the river is a straight shot where we're at, and it's really, really wide. So that's why the base is there, is to test the distance of missiles.
Or just like cannons.
I don't know. I really don't understand.
I don't really know what it is.
I'm
but
sure
I know,
it's like somewhat.
I know it's like testing from the base, and they shoot off like cannons or missiles or whatever they are, and
when it hits the water, it shakes everything.
And nobody tells you this when you're growing up, that like this is, or like when you first move here.
You hear no one,
and so you like hear it the first time, and you're like, oh my gosh. And I didn't, for some reason I was like, 20 years, maybe they don't do it anymore. Oh, we were getting ready today, and it went off.
Still do it. They still do it. And it actually causes problems because it shakes the whole ground. It can cause damage to foundations and windows and weird settling to your house. No one can do anything about it because they're never going to admit that that's a thing. Because they used to do seismic testing to try to get the base to pay for damages to the town sewer pipes and water lines because it does cause damage. Nothing came from it, but they used to do all that. Probably still gave up. Yeah. Anyways, it's really cool to live here.
Yeah, it's a very quirky little town.
It is. It's adorable.
But it is a really good place to grow up. I was thinking about that. I was because we were talking about how our nieces and nephews don't really want to leave home, or they have to get a ride to go to their friend's house, but like we just grew up just walking.
And it's very safe. Like, I mean, like any town, there's crime and there's issues, especially being close to Washington, D.C. But, like, generally speaking, you're fine here. Like, you'll see groups of, like, 9-year-olds walking home from the elementary school, and it's not like, oh, they're walking across the street. Like, they're walking home. Or, like, kids would go play on the basketball courts, the blacktop, after school because no one wanted to go home. Or parents are working, so there was no one at home, so we all kind of just, like, babysat ourselves. And you knew that someone was going to have eyes on you because it's a small enough town that everyone knew everybody's kids. You couldn't get away with anything. For example, our boss was telling us a story. It's a library, so they obviously run things. The library's also adapted the times. So at the library, they have like an Xbox and a Nintendo and remotes that you can check out and play games if you don't have games at your house. So this kid walked out with it, comes to the library, walked out with a remote that he could take home and play with, as I'm sure why he did it. And he just didn't come back for a few weeks to be like, it's fine. And the librarian, what did she do? Because she knew exactly who that kid's teacher was, called the school, called the teacher, and had the teacher tell the kid they needed to bring the remote back, and they brought it back. Like, you can't get away with anything in this town because everyone knows everybody, and luckily, no one's going to get a kid in trouble over that stuff because they get it, but they're going to, like, handle what they have to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Just
the other thing about our hometown is, like, I feel like there's a few, like, town characters, I think is what they're called. But, like, they're just people that, like, they've lived here their whole life, or their parents lived here their whole life, and they may or may not, like, work or, like, have as high of executive functioning or...
Yeah, and they take care of them.
Yeah, the whole town just takes care of these people.
We don't obviously know who those people are now, but when we were growing up, there was a mom and their son who had low executive function, who probably had some undiagnosed disability, a learning disability, I would imagine. And people just made sure that they were okay. We give them rides places, made sure they had doctor's appointments, we made sure they had food in their fridge because they just took care of them. That's one thing that's really great about this, being in a small town, is you took care of each other. Even people who didn't like each other made sure each other were taken care of. Like, we had a massive hurricane, which sounds weird because it's not like we're on the ocean, but the hurricane traveled up the river and decimated our town in a lot of ways. We were out of power for like 2 weeks, and neighbors just one by one, even neighbors who had long-standing feuds, because you do in a small town, helped clean up, picked up trees, prepared homes, they were going through the water and food lines for resources because you don't have power, you don't have a fridge, everything went bad, and would pick some up for their neighbor, and you just take care of each other. And eventually, ultimately, personal feelings about people get pushed to the side, and community does come first, which is really special about a town like this.
Yeah. And also, like, I would say we were probably kids that, like, I call myself a feral child. And so, like, we were just roaming the streets most of the time, or, like, working on this house. And, like, people knew that, like, we were not okay at home.
Yeah. And
were willing to, like, take care of us, too. So we were also a product of this town, which is why, like, I feel like when we were talking about how, like, when we first moved here, it's like, you guys are come here's or whatever, you can't be in our cool club. But I think that, like, we got raised by the town, so we're not really commuters anymore. So.
No, we're definitely from here. And you're right. It's the other thing is, like, people recognize when the youth circumstances here are not great, and rather than just being like, oh, well, we have nothing to do with that, they step in, and they stepped in for us. They made sure that we had places that were safe, that were comfortable, where we could be ourselves without judgment, because we didn't have that at home. It's just, our boss was a huge part of that. We call her our boss, but she's our mom in so many ways. And our cheerleading coach was that for us. Our drama club teachers were that for us. And in hindsight, like in the moment, you don't realize that's what is happening. But in hindsight, when you're an adult and you have these conversations with them, and they finally tell you, like, we knew you weren't okay at home, and you realize that they made active choices to take care of you, and they made active choices, and you know that it didn't matter that we moved here. It didn't matter who our parents were or their reputation in town. Because let's be honest, our parents did not have a great reputation in town. Some people loved them. They were very much like, you either loved or hated our parents. And it didn't matter to anybody. That was not something we had to live with.
Yeah.
We didn't have to live with the reputation of our parents. We weren't treated any differently by people who hated our parents than people who loved our parents, because they recognized that it wasn't our fault. And they created those spaces for us, and it just, that sense of community saved us in so many ways, and it's so wonderful to see now coming back that that's still here. It's a little bit different because kids are different now, I think, and because society is a little bit different. Kids are at home more, or they're FaceTiming and they're doing more technology. We didn't really have a lot of that, so it was either be at home or not be at home, and we chose to not be at home as much as we could. But it's so good to hear and so good to see that those people, those types of people are still core to this community. And that's why I think we love this town so much. I mean, we moved here at 9 and 11. And so we didn't have those relationships from little, like a lot of the kids who were here did, but that didn't matter. And it's just very, very special. I have so much love for this town. And, I mean, we still give back. You give back more than I do, because I'm so bad about things like this. I don't keep on top of anything. I blame ADD, but really I'm just shitty. But like, they'll do fundraisers for the schools or for a park, and you know, they do like bricks, and you go, and Charlie's got a brick in fucking everything. She's got a brick for the park that got built. She's got a brick as part of the town pier. She's got a brick as part of the elementary school.
I don't think all those things are true.
She does.
It's not true.
But you showed them to me.
I just had one.
I thought you had a brick for the town pier too.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, she still gives back. I don't know. In my mind, she gives back to everything.
No, thanks.
But, yeah, it's been interesting. I think in a lot of ways, like for me, how I feel about community, and it's one of the reasons I struggle with Atlanta, is that there's not community there. It's a major, major city. Even if you're in a suburb, you don't really know your neighbors. It's just not a thing. So I think I really struggle with is I miss this sense of community.
Yeah.
And how vital and valuable it is to just relationships and life and sanity and security. And I think that really has shaped how I interact with the people around me. I don't know if you can hear that, but I have to eat breakfast. I was like a dinosaur out of my stomach. Anyways, to break that sad little moment, please listen to the sounds of my abdomen.
That's funny.
At least it wasn't a fart or something.
Yeah.
That'd be mortifying. Anyways, I'm not really happy now.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I'm gonna write. Well, I know that I'm writing an article about this, and I'm gonna like try and figure out a way to the best way to capture the emotion and the everything about the story and things like that. It's too big of a job, but I don't know how I'm gonna accomplish it all, but I'll accomplish at least parts of it. Yeah,
I think it's just we've talked about writing our memoirs and how to do that in a way that doesn't hurt people's feelings. Because I think the last thing we ever want is for our parents to feel bad. because I think we can be empathetic to the choices that they made and also understand that they're problematic. Like, I can say, I love you. I understand you think what you did was right by us. And you have your own issues for why that's true. But also, it's super problematic. And as an adult, I don't understand at the same time. Like, I think all of those feelings can exist. But I think that it's just a hard balance of telling the truth and not wanting to hurt people in the process. And I don't know there's a way to do that. I think there's a way maybe to soften the blow, but I don't really know how to do that either. And I think that you're the first one to take it on because you're writing this article. I just keep avoiding it. But I think you're very good at that. I think you're very good at balancing the need for the truth and other people's feelings because you do it in your life and your day-to-day work anyways. So I think it's going to be great. I think whatever you write is going to be wonderful and authentic and kind, where it would take me a couple of tries. I'd be like, you all suck. To some extent.
But everybody sucks and everybody doesn't.
No, it's just relationships are complicated. Life is complicated. It's hard. It's really hard. I'm sorry, this is like kind of a depressing. It feels a little depressing for you all to listen to, but I hope that for me, I hope it doesn't feel that way because I don't feel depressed about it. And there's big feelings, but I'm glad that those feelings are happening. I feel like it's very cathartic. I feel really happy to be here. I feel really happy to see where we grew up and to connect with it again. I mean, I haven't been here in maybe 8 years. Mm-hmm. And I think that these feelings, these really deep and difficult feelings are good. And I think there's a lot of positivity in it, and there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of wonderful memories in this trip as well. And I think it's very healing as an adult to know that these people were there for us. And there's not enough words to say thank you to any of those people. Yeah. And so I hope when you're listening to this that you're not seeing it as like, oh my God, this is so sad. I think it's a really overall a really positive experience.
Yeah. It's important.
It's important to deal with difficult feelings and sit in the really just intertwined, complicated nature of good and bad and hard and easy. It's just life.
Yeah.
It's just life.
And I'm really glad that we ended up staying, like, not in the house.
Yes, I am really glad we're not staying inside the house. So that way the woman has the Airbnb is that there's an Airbnb apartment above the garage, and then there is an Airbnb apartment on the 3rd floor with its own individual entrance. And we were originally going to be staying on the 3rd floor, which at first our concern is it was haunted. And our ghosty friends are going to be like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in a decade. What's up? And didn't want to deal with the ghosty friends. However, now that we've come here and we've gone inside our house and toured the house, for me, I'm glad because I was so uncomfortable being in our home. I don't know how you felt. But like for me, I was physically uncomfortable because of the triggering of like all of the feelings of the things. I was like, oh my God, I went in the house once. I do not want to step foot again before we leave. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you felt about it, but I'm very glad that we're not staying in there for that reason.
I didn't feel one way or the other, really. I just felt neutral. But I've been here.
You've been here
more. I
haven't stepped foot in this house since probably either 13 or 14. I can't remember when our parents sold it, but either 13 or 14, so a decade. Mm-hmm. And I did not have good exiting from this house either, because I was telling our parents I was moving in with my boyfriend at the time, which was very anti our religious upbringing, and they were very unhappy. But I definitely, it had been a decade since I stepped into the house, and it was hard. It was hard for me. But I also am kind of I'm a Pisces, so which you are too, but like I think I'm way more like outwardly, physically emotional. I feel like I feel all my emotions in like my gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like even as a kid, when I got nervous or anxious, I would start vomiting. Like I just always felt very physical in my emotions, and so it's just a thing. Like even around my mom now, I'm 35 years old, and I have not been in a situation with my mother where I'm at risk since I was like probably 12, because I didn't see her until I was an adult again. But even now, when she tries to hug me, I like physically, like, ugh. That's all I can describe. Ugh. And that's 35 years old, so.
Yeah. The body remembers.
Body remembers everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of rude, actually.
Anyway.
On that note, do you want to end on something happy?
Yeah. What's happy though? What are we up? What's our favorite thing? Tell me your favorite thing from this trip so far.
Reliving my job last night. Oh my god. So we would walk to work. So I worked 7 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
You worked 5 to 7 at the library on Tuesday, Thursdays. And then I worked Friday mornings and Saturday mornings. We alternated Saturdays. And I would walk. So we ended up leaving for dinner at like 6:45, which is when I would walk to work.
Mm-hmm.
We walked to the library. We were walking to a restaurant by the library, and then I got something in my eye and I couldn't see. So I had to go to the library to use the bathroom. And we ended up staying there. And I ended up, we would used to prepare for the children's story time all week, because children's story time was Friday mornings. And so we would cut out things and glue things and prepare things. And we would do stuff on the computers because they're not the most tech savvy. And so we get there at 7, and what happens? We end up cutting out stuff, and I was like helping laminate and cut out stuff for story time. Charlie was at the computer working on some sort of graphic for something.
Well, because I'm a self-anointed and peer-reviewed Canva queen. And I was bragging about that, and then one of them was like, "Can you just come fix this thing on Canva?" And so she
was like 30 minutes on Canva. I'm cutting out spiders, and we're reminiscing in the process. And Miss Kitty was doing what she always does, which is going through old photos. And 35 years, but like even when we were working there, she was always going through old photos or old remnants of newspaper articles and everything. So there she was at the desk going through old stuff, and we were reminiscing and cracking up and laughing, and there was no one else in there. And we stayed until it closed, and then we all gathered our stuff and walked out like we did every single night that we worked there. And it was just felt so good to just fall back into that comfort. It was comfortable for them too. Mm-hmm. Like they talk about all the time how it was never the same after we left for college. Because we were typically when you think of people who work at the library, you think of people who are very like quiet and nerdy, and we were not that. We were loud. Patrons would get mad at us for talking too loud.
To this day, I go to the library and I'm like, "How are you?" Like I'm like trying to whisper because I'm scared that people are gonna get mad.
We would get in trouble all the time. But we were cheerleaders. We were in drama club, so all our friends would come hang out at the library after school with us because they're like, "Well, you have to work, so let me just come hang out." So they would hang out and help us. Sometimes they would help us do work. Mm-hmm. And so it was always really full of like loud, obnoxious teenagers. And what was cool about that is we started a teen program, and we ended up doing lock-ins in the library. We had lots of games and parties, and we threw like a Halloween party, and our friends would volunteer at the kids' Halloween party. And it was just a great time. And when we left, that stopped. Mm-hmm. Because the next people that they hired were not that personality. And so it was just a little bit different. And so I think it was really fun for them too last night to like have that same energy back in the library. And it just was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to be around people who loved us, that we loved, and being our old selves and just having a good time. It was so much fun.
Oh, man. I'm
loved
happy,
it.
but I'm crying.
I know, it was so much fun. And then, I had already packed it.
What?
The book. The scrapbook.
Oh, yeah.
So I got hired before you got hired.
Yeah.
And when I got hired, we also hired, there was, I'm gonna name him, whatever, Norman. And we used to talk shit all the time. And so we get bored because there's only so much to do at a library at any given time. And so we would draw on the desk, had one of those big calendars where we would like have all the events on it of what was going to happen that week or that month. And we would started doodling like in the margins and to each other. We would draw pictures because we didn't always work on the same days. We didn't always overlap. So we'd start like writing a message to each other on the calendar and like drawing pictures to the point where the calendars became unusable. Like, and Miss Kitty would get so mad because she's like, I have to use these calendars and I can't, every day has something on it now. And so she started creating to just leave. So we would stop doodling on her calendar, these doodle pages every month. She would staple it right the top of it and tape it next to the calendar. And we have months and months of these doodle pages of drawings and notes and messages to each other. And then you came on and you started doing it. And then our friends would go, which they weren't supposed to, would go behind the desk and also contribute to the doodle pages. So last night she gave me a bunch of those, gave me all the old scrapbooks that we created, which were just full of hysterical
teen
angst and photos and teen jokes, which are not funny. They're not funny. We thought they were hysterical when we made them, but it was so nice. That was so much fun. I had so much fun last night. I'm so glad we did that instead of going to where we were going to go for dinner. That was much more fun, I think. Yeah. But yeah, that was my favorite. Was last night.
Yeah, last night was good.
It was good. I liked it.
There's our happy note. Before I cry again.
They're happy tears. They're happy tears. And for the record, I am not unemotional. I just cried on my tears last night.
Anyway. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for coming on this trip.
Of course, I love you. I'm glad we took this trip together.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I love you.
If I haven't written this article by the time that you listen to this episode, somebody hold me accountable.
And I promise I'll listen more than the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
I'm really bad. I don't listen through the whole episode because I'm not a huge podcast listener. So then I get distracted or something comes up. And I really only listen to the first 10 or 15 minutes of every episode. Even the ones I'm on, I don't even listen to those all the way through. But I follow you on every podcast platform.
It counts for something.
Counts for something. But I'm gonna start listening.
Speaking of which, if you're listening, you should also follow.
You should also follow. I listen to more than 15 minutes. And so her viewers go up because this is an amazing podcast. I tell her all the time, and I do it every time I'm on this podcast. She is amazing. Listen, follow. I love her. I share her stuff all the time. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I think you're doing amazing work. I love it. And she's cooler than me.
I don't know about that.
I used to be the cool one in high school, and she's now the cool one as an adult.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not that I peaked in high school, but she's way cooler than me.
Okay.
All right.
All right, love you, bye.